Hello Internet. So this week, cracking open the booster box for the newest Yu-Gi-Oh set, Lightning Overdrive. I don't really have too much to say, so I'll just get this bad boy opened and we'll get right into it. Okay, so we'll get right into it. There we go. So we have Boo Boo Game. During damage calculation, if a monster battles, you take no battle damage from that battle. If the set card in its owner's control is destroyed by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target up to two normal traps in your graveyard except Boo Boo Game. Set them onto your field. They can be activated this turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. That's interesting. Dogmatica Calamity. This card can be used to ritual summon any Dogmatica ritual monster. You must also tribute monsters from your hand or field whose total levels exactly equal the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon, or send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard whose level equals the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. You can only activate it once per turn. We have ZW Pegasus Twin Saber. You can only control one of them. If your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can target one Utopia monster you control, equip this card you control to it as an equip spell that gives it 1,000 attack. Once per turn, while this card is equipped to a monster, you can negate a monster effect activated on your opponent's field. Oh, that's actually not bad. AI Challenge You. Monsters your opponent control lose 1,000. You'll lose 100 attack for each card you control. If your Ad Ignister monster battles your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. When your Ad Ignister monster is destroyed by battle, you can target one other Cyberse monster with 2,300 attack in your graveyard. Special summon it. You can only use this effect once per turn. Spriggan's Merrymaker. If it's special summoned from the extra deck, you can send one Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard. During your opponent's main or battle phase, you can banish this card until the end phase. Then if you banish this card with 2 or more Xyz materials, you can also send one fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that lists Fallen of Alba as material. You can only use each effect once per turn. Amaze Attraction Wonder Wheel. Target one Amazement monster you control or one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip this card to it. You can activate the following effects based on which player controls the equipped monster. During the main phase, place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, then draw one card. Decent enough. Your opponent, switch the equipped monster's current attack and defense until the end of the turn. That's actually pretty nasty. You can only use this effect once per turn. World Soul Carbon. You can tribute this normal summoner set card. Add one Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand, except World Soul Carbon. If a face-up fairy monster you control is sent to the graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can place this card on top of your deck. You can only use one World Soul Carbon effect per turn, and only once that turn. Basil Rose Shoot. Special summon one Rose Dragon monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. If this set card is destroyed, you can target one of your Black Rose Dragon or one monster that specifically lists that card in its text that is banished or in your graveyard, special summon it. And Spriggan's Booty. If a face-up Xyz monster you control leaves the field by card effect, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls. Neither player can activate that effect monster's effects on the field this turn. You can send this face-up card to the graveyard, activate one Great Sandsea Golgonda directly from your deck or graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. Neat. Dark Eye Nightmare. Once per turn, if this card would be destroyed by battle, you can banish one trap from your graveyard instead. You can banish up to 3 traps from your graveyard. Apply this effect based on the number banished. 1. Draw 1 card. Place 1 card from the bottom of your deck, from your hand on top of the deck. 2 is draw 1 card, and then 3 is draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. You can only use this effect once per turn. I mean, it's not a bad one. If you have a lot of traps. Terrors of the Underroot. Target up to 5 cards in your opponent's graveyard and the same number of your opponent's banished cards. Banish those targets from the graveyard, and if you do, return those banished targets to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Terrors of the Underroot per turn. Not sure how I feel about that one. Like, on the one hand, it's nice that you'd be able to get key cards out of the graveyard, but at the same time, you're still giving them back cards in the first place. Yeah, it is your opponent's graveyard and your opponent's banished cards, so you couldn't use it to get back any of your stuff. We have the Spriggan's Brothers. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target 1 Spriggan's monster in your graveyard, except Spriggan's Brothers. Special summon it in defense position. If this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can target 1 Spriggan's Xyz monster you control. Attach this card to it as material. You can only use each effect once per turn. Dan-Marie Ad Ignister. When an attack is declared involving your Ad Ignister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate the attack. If you control a Link 6 monster, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, then target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect once per turn. Link 6? I don't think I've ever seen a Link 6 myself. Be curious to see what that one is. We have Edda the Sun Magician. If it's normal summoned or flip face-up, you can special summon 1 spellcaster monster with 1500 defense from your hand or deck in face-down defense position, except the Sun Magician. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can change 1 face-down spellcaster monster you control to face-up attack or defense position. You can only use each effect once per turn. We have another Spriggan's Booty. You and I. If a Cyberus monster with 2300 original attack is special summoned, you can activate 1 of these effects based on the attribute of that monster on the field. Earth Water, have the attack of 1 face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn. Wind Light, negate the effect of 1 face-up card on the field until the end of the turn. Or Fire Dark, special summon 1 Ad Ignister token. You can only use each effect once per turn for each attribute. So you can get it off 6 times. Yeah, so it's not even once per pairing, so you can just straight up get it off 6 times. That's seems like quite a decent little one. Ancha Mufrit. If you have no cards in your extra deck except Ancha Mufrit, you can destroy this card, then draw 1 card. You can only use this effect once per turn. And he cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your face-up extra deck by having no cards in your extra deck except Ancha Mufrit. You can only special summon Ancha Mufrit once per turn this way. If this face-up card in the monster zone leaves the field, banish it. Damage the corner of the card, pulling it out of the pack. Amazement Ambassador Buffo. When this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 attraction trap in your graveyard and 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip that trap to your opponent's monster. Quick effect, you can target 1 of your attraction traps equipped to a monster. Equip it to 1 amazement monster you control or 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it lets you move the amazement traps around. That's pretty good. Just being able to reuse them more than once. We have Paleozoic Cambroraster. Unaffected by other monsters' effects, you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can target 1 set card in the spell and trap zone, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, set 1 Paleozoic trap directly from your deck. It can be activated this turn. And if a set card you control would be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard instead. We have DDD Super Psych King Zero Maxwell. Target one face-up monster on the field. Its defense becomes 0 until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. And before damage calculation, if this card attacks an opponent's defense position monster, you can change the defense of that opponent's monster to 0 until the end of the damage step. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Ooh. You take no battle damage from battles involving this monster. So that's not once per turn either. So if you have a way of attacking with this guy multiple times, and your opponent has a bunch of defense position monsters, they're just eating a ton of damage. Ooh, that's nasty. Otoshi. When you control a monster that is not a tuner, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. If a monster is sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard, place one Otoshi Damashi counter on this card, then special summon one Then special summon a token. Up to the number of counters on this card, each token's level is increased when summoned by the number of counters on this card. Also, each token's attack and defense are its level when summoned times 500. You can only use this effect once per turn. Wow. That's, that is hilariously ridiculous. I won't lie. We have Amaze Attraction Majestic Merry-Go-Round. Target one amazement monster you control or one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip this card to it. You can apply the following effects based on which player controls the equipped monster. You, equip monster gains 500 attack. If it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. Your opponent, the equipped monster loses 500 attack for each of your attraction traps equipped to a monster. Ooh. So it doesn't even have to be number of your attraction traps equipped to that monster. It's just literally, you have, your opponent has 3 monsters, each one of them has a trap on it, and you stick this on something, it's losing, actually I guess in that case it'd be losing 2,000 attack, but still, that's quite nice. Albion, the Branded Dragon. If this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except Albion, the Branded Dragon, by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add it to your hand or set one branded spell or trap directly from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. Another you and I. Not even going to try to pronounce it again. Bufo. And Zexal Entrust. Target one Utopia, ZW, or ZS monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, or special summon it. If your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Then target one Zexal spell or trap in your graveyard, except Entrust, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. I have Sky Scourge Sidhells. Might be Kidhells. Cannot be special summoned. If this card is tribute summoned by tributing one of the following monsters from the field, you can apply that effect. Light Fairy, add one Light Fairy or one Dark Fiend monster from your deck to your hand. Or Dark Fiend, send one Light Fairy monster and or one Dark Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. I mean, that's not bad. Another Dogmatica Calamity. I Meet You. Reveal one Cyberse monster with 2300 attack in your hand or extra deck, and add one Ignister monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. During the end phase of this turn, take 2300 damage if you do not special summon the revealed monster or a monster with the same name. After you resolve this effect, you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn after this card resolves except Cyberse monsters. You can only activate one I Meet You per turn. Yamorimori. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target one reptile monster you control, and one face-up card your opponent controls to activate one of these effects. Change those monsters Good news, gravity still exists. Change those monsters to face down defense position, or destroy that monster you control, and if you do, change the attack of the other monster to 0 until the end of this turn. I mean, decent enough effects. We have Bujin Torifune. You can tribute this card, special summon 2 Bujin monsters of 2 different types from the deck in defense position, except Torifune. When you Xyz summon a Bujin Xyz monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can equip this card to it. Any monster destroyed by battle with that equipped monster is banished. You can only use each effect once per turn. Huh. I have Zexal and Trust. Binary Blader. Link 2 gains these effects based on the numbers of monsters co-linked to this card. 1+, when this card declares an attack on an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Also, if this card battles an opponent's monster this turn, the opponent's monster cannot be destroyed by that battle. And 2, after damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster. We have Birth of the Prominence Flame. Target 2 fire monsters, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner with 200 defense in your graveyard. Banish both those monsters, and if you do, special summon 1 fire synchro monster from your extra deck whose level equals the total levels of those monsters. You can only activate 1 Birth of the Prominent Flame per turn. I mean, it's not bad. Hidden Spring of the Far East. Once per turn during main phase 2, the turn player can activate this effect. They gain 500 life points until the end of this, and until the end of this turn apply these effects. The normal and special summons of the monsters cannot be negated. If they activate a spell or trap card or a monster effect that includes an effect that special summons a monster, that activation cannot be negated. And their opponent cannot target set spells or traps they control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by their opponent's card effects. You can activate 1 Hidden Springs of the Far East per turn. Not quite sure how I feel about that, because you only get these during main phase 2. So, I mean, it's powerful effects and good if you don't need to rely on the damage battle step. I have S-Force Dog Tag. During your main phase, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters in the same column as one of your S-Force monsters. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster while you control an S-Force monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. I mean, it's not bad. 1 Curie Way. Target 1 Link 1 monster in either graveyard, return it to the extra deck, or special summon it to the owner's field. You can only activate one Curie Way per turn. I mean, decent enough. Dark Eye Nightmare. Terrors of the Underroot. Rank Up Magic is Zexal Force. Target 1 Xyz monster you control, special summon from your extra deck one Utopia or ZW monster that is 1 rank higher than the monster you control by using it as material. And if you do, take 1 ZW or ZS monster from your deck and place it on top of your deck. It's treated as an Xyz summon, transfer its materials to the summon monster. If your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can banish this card from your graveyard, draw 1 card. Huh, that's not bad at all. I have another Binary Blader. Birth of the Prominence Flame, Hidden Springs of Far East, and Judge of the Ice Barrier. When you control another Ice Barrier monster, each time your opponent activates a card or effect by paying life points, they lose 500 life points. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can target 1 or 2 Ice Barrier monsters in your graveyard and 1 or 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 attack position monster on the field, change it to defense position. I mean, seems like a decent enough Ice Barrier support. We have another Spriggan's Brothers. Judgment of the Branded. Target 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster you control. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or higher attack than that monster. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, You can set this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. You have Scrap Raptor. Target one monster you control, destroy it. Also during your main phase this turn, you can normal summon one scrap monster in addition to your normal summoner set. If this card is destroyed by the effect of a scrap card and sent to your graveyard, you can add one Scrap Factory or one non-tuner scrap monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Son of Valon Daphne. Cannot be targeted for attacks, but it does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. You contribute one monster, then target 2 Plant Link monsters in your graveyard, except Daphne. Return them to the extra deck. Oh, so it's not too bad. Amazement Administration Arlecchino. Once per turn, you can banish any number of attraction traps from your graveyard, then target that many cards your opponent controls, destroy them. Ooh, that's nice. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If a trap card is activated, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can target one of those face-up monsters they control. Equip one attraction trap from your target to that deck, or from your deck to that target. We have another Judge of the Ice Barrier. Star Mine. You can only special summon Star Mines once per turn. If this card is in owner's possession, is destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, take 2,000 damage, then inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. If a monster in this card's adjacent zone is destroyed by your opponent's attack or card effect, destroy this card, and if you do, take 2,000 damage, then inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So basically, this thing go boom, and people get sad, if I'm reading that correctly. It is interesting how it inflicts the 2,000 to you first and then your opponent, so you can't use it to draw out the game. Bujin Mahitotsu. You can send one of the Bujin cards from your hand to the graveyard. Special summon this card from your hand. You can activate one of these effects. Send one Bujin monster from your hand to the graveyard. Add one Bujin monster with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. Or banish one Bujin monster from your graveyard. Send one Bujin monster with a different name from your deck to the graveyard. You can only use the summoning effect and the other effect once per turn. And Sunvine Crossbreed. Tribute one Link monster, then target one other plant monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, but negate its effects. You can only use this effect once per turn. And just a moment. Oh, sorry about that. I had to go and get something to clear my throat. Anyways, let's continue on. We have another Spriggan's Brothers, Danmari Adignister, Sky Scourge, Dogmatic Calamity, Lina the Light Charmer Lustrous. It's always treated as a familiar possessed card. You can target one light monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to. If this card is link summoned, if this link summoned card is destroyed by battle or is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while it's in its owner's monster zone, you can add one light monster with 1,500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Not sure how I feel about the first ability, because it is very dependent on what your opponent's running. But I mean, overall, it's not a bad card. I have another Star Mine, Bujin Mahitotsu. A lot of Japanese names in this set. Interesting. Sunvine Crossbreed, and Fukubiki. Each player shuffles their deck and excavates the top card of their deck. Add the excavated cards with the highest attack to that player's hand. Also send the card with the lowest attack to that player's graveyard. Spells, traps, and monsters with question mark attack are treated as 0. If tied, place those cards on the bottom of the opponent's deck, or bottom of the decks. Huh. Den Marie ad Ignister, S-Force Dog Tag, Starry Night's Ciel. If this card is in your hand, you can return one Starry Night's monster or one level 7 Light Dragon monster you control to its hand, except Starry Night's Ciel. Special summon this card. If you control no monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon one level 7 Light Dragon monster from your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. You have another Super Sight King Zero Maxwell. Ruddy Rose Witch. You contribute this card, add one Witch of the Black Rose from your deck to your hand, and if you do, take one level 3 or lower plant monster from your deck and place it on top of your deck. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one Witch of the Black Rose from your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, return one of your Black Rose Dragon or Ruddy Rose Dragon that is banished or in your graveyard to the extra deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. Oh, that's not a bad effect. Fukubiki. Pharaonic Guardian Sphinx. Once per turn, you can change this card to face down defense position. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is flip summoned, shuffle all monsters your opponent controls into the deck. If this card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon one level 5 rock monster from your hand or deck in face down defense position. So a bit hard to get out, but really good effects. We have World Soul Carbon and Screams of the Branded. If a fusion monster is sent from to your graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. Oh, it's quite a nice effect. We have I Meet You, Yamori Mori, Spriggan Brothers, Judgment of the Branded, Traptrix Kularia. This Link Summon card is unaffected by trap effects. You can only use each effect once per turn. After you activate a whole normal trap card, you can set it instead of sending it to the graveyard. And during your end phase, you can target one Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position. That's not bad at all. Another Pharaonic Guardian Sphinx, World Soul, Screams of the Branded, and Zexal and Trust. I need to get around to watching the later Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I was working my way through GX and then life happened and I stopped watching it for a while. We have Amazement Special Show. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Amazement monster you control, target one of those Amazement monsters you control, return it to the hand, then you can special summon one Amazement monster from your hand. One Curie Way, War Rock Generations. During the battle phase, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon one War Rock monster from your deck, and if you activated this card during your opponent's turn, for the rest of this turn, when you control the face-up special summon monster, your opponent's monsters cannot attack except to attack that monster. Oh, excuse me. You can only activate one War Rock Generations per turn. We have another Twin Saber, Sinavalon Milius. If this card is link summoned, you can special summon one Sinseed Janus Loki from your graveyard. This card cannot be targeted for attacks, but does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. Once per turn, you can target one Sunvine Link monster you control that this card points to. This turn, it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of Sunvine Link monsters you currently control. I have Zexal and Trust, ZS Arm Sage. If the only monster you control is one level 4 monster not named ZS Arm Sage, you can special summon this card from your hand. A Utopia Xyz monster that was summoned using this card on the field as material gains this effect. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can add one ZW monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. I do have to wonder, with some of these very odd, like oddly strict summoning requirements, like if the only monster you control is one level 4 monster, Is that just like, is it just because like the only time that this card shows up in the show is when it gets special summoned out, when the character has only one level 4 monster on the field? Like, is that why we get some of these really odd special summoning requirements? Yeah, well. Birth of the Prominence Flame, and 1 by 1. Send one monster from your hand or field to the graveyard. Target one of your level 1 monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Accept the monster sent to the graveyard. Add that monster to your hand. You can only activate 1 by 1 per turn. I mean, it's a decent enough way to get back some of your guys. Come on, there we go. We have another Scrap Raptor, Sanavalon Daphne, Danmari Adignister, Force Dog Tag, Rox Rose Dragon. If it's normal or special summoned, you can add one card that specifically lists Black Rose Dragon in its text from your deck to your hand, except Rox Rose Dragon. While this card is in your graveyard, if a face-up Rose Dragon monster or plant synchro monster you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Another Armed Sage, Birth of the Prominence Flame, 1 by 1, and Spriggan's Booty. Terrors of the Underroot, Spriggan's Brothers, Judgment of the Branded, S-Force Dog Tag, Warrock Wento. If your Earth Warrior monster battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, quick effect, you can pay 800 life points. Your battling monster gains 800 attack until the end of this turn. If this card is sent from your monster zone to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one level 5 or higher Warrock monster from your hand or deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. We have Spriggan's Booty, Warrock Big Blow. During the main phase, if a face-up Warrock monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, destroy up to 2 cards your opponent controls. You can only activate 1 Warrock Big Blow per turn. That guy, and Warrock Mahmood. If you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are warrior monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. If your Earth Warrior monster battles after damage calculation, you can target one spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it, then all Warrock monsters you currently control gain 200 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. We have Spriggan's Brothers, Judgment of the Branded, S-Force Dog Tag, Yamorti Morty, Senvalon Melius, Amaze Attraction Wonder Wheel, You and I, Hidden Spring of the Far East, and Pharaonic Guardian Sphinx. Otoshi Damashi, Paleozoic Kemproraster, Starry Night Ciel, I Challenge You. Monsters your opponent's control lose 100 attack for each card you control. If your Adignister monster battles your opponent's, cannot activate card effects until the end of the damage step. When your Adignister monster is destroyed by battle, you can target one other Cyberus monster, 2300 attack in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. Not a bad effect. S-Force Razor Edge, or Edge Razor. Each of your opponent's monsters in the same column as one of your S-Force monsters cannot be used as material for the link summon of a link 3 or higher monster. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one S-Force monster from your hand in attack position except S-Force Edge Razor. You can only use this effect once per turn. We have Armed Sage, You and I, Binary Blader, and Sunvine Crossbreed. We have Sky Scourge, Sid Hills, Zexal Alliance. If a face-up Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, pay life points so that you only have 10 left. Special summon one Utopia monster from your graveyard, and if you do, take one card from your deck and place it on top of your deck. That special summon monster's attack becomes doubled. Also, it cannot be destroyed by battle except by battle with a number monster, nor by card effects. That's, reduce your life to 10. Or pay life points so you only have 10 left. If your opponent follows that up by playing Sparks, I would just laugh. I'm sorry. Dark Eye Nightmare. I mean, it's a really nice effect of what you're getting, but at the same time, that opens you up to like literally everything. Warrock Generations. Amaze Attraction Horror House. Target one amazement monster you control or one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip this card to it. You can activate the following effect based on which player controls the equipped monster. You target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Your opponent change the equipped monster to the face-down defense position. I mean, once again, it's decent enough. You have You and I, Binary Blader, Sunvine Crossbreed, and Bujin Mahitotsu. Scrap Raptor, Boo Boo Game, Sun Avalon Daphne, Dark Eye Nightmare, Tri-Brigade Bearbrum the Rampant Rampager. You can discard 2 cards and then target one of your banished level 4 or lower Beast Warrior or Wing Beast monsters. Special summon it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Tri-Brigade spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then place one card from your hand on bottom of the deck. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except Tri-Brigade monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. We have Bujin Mahitotsu, Amazement Ambassador Bufo, Clock Arc. If you control no monsters or only pendulum monsters, apply this effect based on the card's pendulum zone. Left, reduce its pendulum scale by 3. Right, increase its pendulum scale by 4. And during your opponent's standby phase, you can special summon this card. And if this card is special summoned to a zone that is not the center main monster zone, destroy it. It cannot be destroyed by battle. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can target one card in your pendulum zone, destroy it, and if you do, place this card in your pendulum zone. Huh. That's quite an interesting one. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was pausing because I just noticed the set number was down in the corner. I never noticed that on the pendulum monsters before. And Judge of the Ice Barrier. I was trying to figure out if it was a misprint or something, and then I realized that there's just no space for the card number otherwise. We have Bujin Candescence. Beast Warrior Bujin monsters you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects except during the battle phase. Once per turn, you can send one Bujin monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard. Target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. During your end phase, you can send this face-up card from the field to the graveyard, then target one Bujin monster in your graveyard, special summon it. We have Amaze Attraction Majestic Merry-Go-Round, Otoshi Damashi, Paleozoic Cambro Roster, Garden Rose Flora. You can target one card in the field zone, destroy it, then special summon it to its controller's field, one Rose token. In attack position, also you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Synchro monsters. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per chain, during your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon using this card you control. Amazement Ambassador Bufo, Clock Arc, Judge of the Ice Barrier, and Spriggan's Booty. Oops. We have Bouge Incandescence, Zexal Alliance, I Meet You, Amazement Special Show. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an amazement monster you control, target one of those amazement monsters you control, return it to the hand. Then you can special summon one amazement monster from your hand. Bengal Lancer, the Resurgent. During the main phase, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, take damage equal to its attack, and if you did take damage, return it to the hand. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 2 or more Link monsters from your graveyard whose combined Link rating is equal exactly 4. Special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use one effect per turn, and only once that turn. I mean, if nothing else, I do like how it gets around the because his first effect would get around most destruction protection events. You know, you take the damage and it bounces back to their hands. So, Spriggan's Booty, Starmine, Warrock Mahmood, and Clock Arc. Starry Night Ciel, I Challenge You, Scrap Raptor, Boo Boo Game, Pendransaction. You can detach one material from this card. If you have more cards in your extra deck than your opponent's, apply these effects in sequence depending on the difference. 1+, cards gain 1000 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. 5+, neither player can target this card with card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. 10+, banish one card your opponent controls. Or 15+, make your opponent's life points 3000. You can only use this effect once per turn. I'm guessing you're supposed to be, to get the 15+, you'd have to rely on, I guess you'd have to rely on Pendulum monsters, wouldn't you? Because those are, at least that's the only way I can think of they'd get more monsters into your extra deck. Starmine, Warrock Mahmood, Clock Arc, and Warrock Big Blow. We have Scrap Raptor, Warrock Generations, Boo Boo Game, Dogmatic Calamity, Amazement Family Amazement Family Faces. Target one monster your opponent controls, equipped with your attraction traps. Equip this card to it. When this card is equipped to a monster, take control of the equipped monster. While you control the equipped monster, it gains 500 attack. You cannot activate its effects. Also, is treated as an amazement monster. You can only activate one Amazement Family Faces per turn. That's quite a nice one. Warrock Big Blow, Screams of the Branded, 1x1, and Black Eyes, the Plundering Patrol Sea Guide. You can target one Plunder Patrol monster in your graveyard except Black Eyes. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, add that monster to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except Plunder Patrol monsters. If this card is sent from the hand or monster zone to the graveyard, you can target one Plunder Patrol monster card in your spell and trap zone, special summon it in defense position. You can only use each effect once per turn. We have Daphne, Dark Eyes Nightmare, Bouge Incandescence, Zexal Alliance, Traptrix Vesiculo. Unaffected by the effects of whole normal traps, you can only use one of the following effects per turn, and only once that turn. You can send one set trap you control to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. If you control no cards in your spell and trap zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one whole normal trap in your graveyard, set it to your field. Screams of the Branded, 1 by 1, Black Eyes, and Amaze Attraction Rapid Racing. Target one amazement monster you control or one face-up monster your opponent controls, equip this card to it. You can activate the following effects based on which player controls the equipped monster. You target one card in your opponent's graveyard, change the equipped monster's battle position, and if you do, shuffle that target into the deck. Or your opponent, increase the equipped monster's level by 1 until the end of the turn, and if you do, change its battle position. So, I mean, decent way of changing battle positions at any rate. And I guess you could also potentially throw off some things just by changing the level of the monster, if you know that they're going to be relying on that. We have ZW Pegasus Twin Saber, I Challenge You, Paleozoic, Super Sight King Zero Maxwell, ZW Dragonic Halberd. Cannot attack directly. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card. Add one Zexal spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can target one Utopia monster you control, equip this card you control to it. Gains 3,000 attack. When the equipped monster destroys a monster by battle, you can special summon to your field any number of ZW monster cards equipped to it. That's interesting. We have another Rapid Racing, Fukubiki, Armed Sage, and Guardian Sphinx. Of I Meet You, Amazement Special Show, Scrap Raptor, Warrock Generations, Amazement Precious Park. During your main phase, you can activate one attraction trap the turn it was set. During the end phase, you can send one attraction trap you control equipped to a monster to the graveyard. Target one of your attraction traps with a different name that is banished or in your graveyard. Set that card. You can only use each effect once per turn. Neat. Fukubiki, Armed Sage, Guardian Sphinx, and Hidden Springs. And last pack. I have Otoshi Damashi, Majestic Merry-Go-Round, Dog Tag, One Kuriway, Throne the Disciplined Angel. If a monster that was originally an Earth Fairy is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. Hidden Springs, Wonder Wheel, World Soul, and Basil Rose Shoot. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, please like, comment, subscribe. You know the routine by now. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.